Hello class, today we are going to learn about predicting. So prior to this lesson, I would like to review some behavior expectations, one of which is raising our hand when we'd like to speak, and the second is remembering to bring our materials with to class, such as a pencil, so we are all ready to learn. The relevance of predicting is when in a book or a story or a movie, you see an event occur, and then you are thinking to yourself, oh, what could happen next? So it's thinking through our head and through the actions that have already occurred as to what could possibly go and be the next event. Some skills that we have already learned are that you have all read books in class prior to this lesson and talked about different literary elements such as conflict. You may look at the book I'm about to read and wonder what it is about, which is if you give a mouse a cookie. But really, what does happen if you give a mouse a cookie? Before we get into this lesson, I would like to make sure that we have an understanding of what predict means. So I'm going to write this on the board so you can all see it. So this is what it looks like. P-R-E-D-I-C-T. It's predict. And then this is the prefix of predict right in the beginning. So predict. What predict means is saying what you will happen or saying what you think will happen next because of the evidence that has already been shown. So if I walk into gym class and I see someone who is just on the floor and is so tired, I can predict that he might want to go get a drink of water next because he may have just gotten done with an exercise. So I am also going to show you another example of the word predict. Here's a comic strip. I don't have one because I don't get the newspaper. Anyways, this is a comic strip. So you can see Garfield in this one, and Garfield is doing this action, and now that he's doing this action, I can predict that the next action is going to be that he is getting ready for work because he is putting on his work clothes. So I can predict that he may be walking to work or going to wherever it is he may be because he has a McDonald's shirt on. So, next I am going to read the book that I just showed you, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. So this is the front of the book. And then this is what the back of the book looks like. So this can just maybe give you a couple clues. Here's a crayon and a pair of shoes. So just a couple of the things that this mouse might be up to during the story. And then I will read the first couple pages of this. So also, page, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, written and illustrated by. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk. When you give him that glass of milk, so class now, excuse me. So now when I read this, when you give him a glass of milk, I'm thinking, okay, so if I give him milk, what could he possibly want to go with his milk? And at that point I'm thinking, okay, well maybe he wants something to go in his milk to help him drink his milk, which would be a straw. Class, I think he wants a straw, and I'm predicting that he wants that straw. He will probably ask you for a straw. When he's finished, he'll ask you for a napkin. Then he'll want you to look in a mirror to make sure he doesn't have a milk mustache. When he looks into the mirror, he might notice his hair needs a trim. So he'll probably ask for a pair of scissors. When he's finished giving himself a trim, he'll probably want a broom to sweep up. He'll start sweeping. He might get carried away and sweep every room in the house. He may even end up washing the floor as well. When he's done, he will probably want to take a nap. So class, we're going to pause right here. And so far, what events have happened and what have we predicted could have possibly happened? So let's keep in mind that this all started right here if you give a mouse a cookie. And now we're cleaning the floors. So it's one event that happens, and then we can predict what the next event may occur. You'll have to fix up a little box for him with a blanket and pillow. He'll crawl in, make himself comfortable, and fluff the pillow a few times. He'll probably ask you to read a story. So class, what are some of the events that have already occurred? Please make sure that we raise our hand per behavior expectations. This is where the class would answer. So you'll read to him from one of your books, and he'll ask to see the pictures. When he looks at the pictures, he'll get so excited he'll want to draw one of his very own. He'll ask for paper and crayons. We are also going to pause right here. It says paper and crayons, which in the beginning of the story, when I showed you the front and back cover, look at what is on the front and back cover. Crayons. So, could we maybe have predicted that crayons would be part of this story? And then also, once we give crayons, when a writing utensil is given, we may typically predict that something to write with the writing utensil is needed. So class, what could we predict if paper and crayons are given? He will draw a picture. Again, relating back to the crayons that we saw on the cover of the book. When the picture is finished, he'll want to sign his name. With a pen. Then he'll want to hang his picture on your refrigerator, which means he will need. So class, we are going to pause. If he wants to hang his picture on your refrigerator, what possibly could he want in order to hang that? This is where the class would answer. Could he want some magnets? Some tape? Probably couldn't use like something that would physically go into the fridge itself, because that would damage it, and I don't know that mom and dad would be happy about that. Scotch tape. He'll hang his drawing and stand back to look at it. Looking at the refrigerator will remind him that he's thirsty. Class, before we move on in the story, are there any questions that you may have about this book? Or any events that could have occurred? Or anything we could have cleared up? It's kind of silly, again, to think back that this all started with if you give a mouse a cookie. He's a pretty curious little mouse, huh? So let's read this again. He's thirsty, so he'll ask for a glass of milk. And chances are, if he asks for a glass of milk, okay, so if he asks for a glass of milk, what could he want to go with that milk? So sometimes I know that more chocolatey things could be drank with milk. We also had earlier in the story that a straw was used with milk. So what could possibly go with a glass of milk? Class, do you have any ideas? Answers, class. Students that raise hands. He's going to want a cookie to go with it. The end. Are there any other questions that I can clear up before we keep moving on with this lesson? Pauses. Waits for class to ask questions. Students, now that we have read If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, I am going to give you what is called a flow map. So with a flow map, you'll write your name in the title, and this is the very beginning of the story. So this is from the very beginning, which is the title, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. So now we are going to retell the story using this flow map, and we are going to follow the arrows and put different events into each of these boxes. This helps us not only comprehend, but also allows for any other questions to be cleared up, and also allows these events to really be put into our brain so that we are fully able to understand this story and what predict really does mean. Now that, give students time to complete this. Now that we have completed our flow map, we will work on, since you worked on that independently, we are now going to do think, pair, share. So we are going to think of an example of predict. So what event could happen out of all the scenarios that have ever happened, or real life examples, and then I'm going to have you turn to the partner that is closest to you, or your classmate, and then you will tell them an example of predict. So it could be anything like, if you lost a receipt one time, what can you predict will happen? If they were for groceries for your mom, do you think she could have maybe gotten a little mad because she might have needed that receipt later on? That would be a prediction. So just making sure that we have that clarified. And then once you tell it to your partner, I will take some examples from the class. And again, make sure we raise our hand, but I just want to make sure that we are able to verify those examples so that it truly is predicting. Lastly, for some extra practice, I'm going to write on the board, and I also have individual sheets for all of you to do this. So we are going to do, it's another form of summarizing what this book is about. So I'm just going to write up on the board, so summarize. So somebody wanted so but then. So class, I know this is on the board and we will talk about it as a group, but I want you to each try this individually because I know that now that we have completed a flowchart and really gotten the ideas together, that we're going to do it just one more time so that we are able to see somebody, so who could that possibly be? What did they want? So, but then. So we'll do this individually, and then again we will come back as a group just to make sure that our answers are correct. And then give students time to do this. I will preview the next lesson, which is about inferring, and I will be giving you an exit ticket prior to you leaving with a couple questions on it. So, I hope you all enjoyed this lesson. I had so much fun teaching it.